Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about an in-text workflow in Office 365 and the ability to log large text. Now, the log in the history list action that comes in in-text workflow for Office 365 has a limitation of only being able to log 255 characters. Now, this is actually something that it inherits from SharePoint itself. What you want to do if you want to log more information than that, so let's say you have a text variable or a field that has more than that many characters, we want to be able to go through all the text and log it to the workflow history. Now, there's a number of reasons why you'd want to do this. I'll give you one good one just from what you see right in front of you. Now, you're looking at a SharePoint list here with only 2 records in it. What I want to do is actually build out a workflow that will query this list, pull all the fields out, and then go through each one of the items and say maybe pull out the my number field. Now, what happens when you query a list is you get a lot of information back. So what I'll do now is actually jump into an in-text workflow, jump over here, and you see we have a query list action right here. We're querying our NW log large text list. We actually don't have anything that we're querying for specifically, so I basically want to get all the items back. You can see the filter just says select all the list items. And we're storing the count, so how many items we've got back, and also this little piece of information here, which is the fields XML. So basically a bunch of XML that represents all the items and all the field values. Now what happens is you'll get a lot of data back. Sometimes you're going to have to query that information and pull out the actual values based on the field name. Now there's something interesting when it comes to the XML that comes back. The XML that comes back will have the name of the field and also the value of that field, but the node that represents the value will change depending on the type of that field. So for example, over here you have a title field and that's a text field. This is a number field, this is a date field, and this is a date field with a date and time. Now if I jump to my workflow history for a previous workflow that I ran, you'll actually see what I'm talking about. You can see we're getting a whole bunch of XML back. For the title field, the actual internal name is called link title, and the value is test1 for the first record, but you can see the node is actually called text. If I look at my number field, the node is actually called number. So the XPath that you will need to use to pull out this data will be different depending on the name of this node, which means the type of that particular field. And you can see the same thing for my date time fields. The node or the XML node is actually called date time. So how do we go about pulling out more than 255 characters and displaying that in our workflow history? Now, just to remember, this is really just for debugging. Just to give you an idea, when you're building out your workflow, if you're not sure what the XPath needs to be, or you need to see all the information that you have in a variable, this is just a way of showing that. Once you've overcome your debug questions, or what the text is, or what the actual value is, I would recommend you disable this piece of functionality so you don't clog up your workflow history. So let's go and have a look at how we're actually doing this. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. After we pull out the information from the dictionary of fields or items, we're going to go into this loop. Now the loop, this is just a simple loop. We're going to loop through each one of the values that we get back, or each one of the items we get back from the list. Now here is where all the important functionality is. First of all, I have a variable, which is a Boolean variable called bool continue processing, and I default that to yes. Then we're going to pull out the actual XML into a text variable, and we go into a loop. Now this is the loop that's going to go through and break up your text into 255 character chunks. And you can see this is a simple loop that looks at that Boolean and makes sure that we'll continue looping while that Boolean variable is set to yes. Now this is where the important piece of functionality comes into play. We have an action called extract substring of string from index with length. So if I open this up, you can see this is the variable we're looking at. This is that holds our entire XML. We have another variable called num text index. This is just going to be an index into our XML, the default value being 0. And we're saying pull out 255 characters, and we're storing it in a little temporary variable called XML data. Now what we do next is we check whether any data actually returned. So for example, if that XML that we stored is empty, what we want to do is we want to set that Boolean variable to no. That's going to tell the loop action to exit out and the rest of the workflow can continue. Otherwise, what we're going to do is we know that that XML variable is not empty. There's some data in it. We're going to log that variable. You can see there's the XML data variable. And the next thing we'll do is we're going to increment that index. Our num text index, we're going to add 255 to it. So now we're going to, next time we go through that action right here, this extract substring, now we're going to be extracting data from the character that starts at position 255. So this is a way of actually pulling out that information, logging it to the workflow history just to give you an idea of what you've actually gotten back. And this has helped me in regards to later on, you can see I have a query XML action because I want to pull some data out. So this helps me build up this particular XPath because now I know that my node is actually called number. Now, if you use different types of fields in your list, maybe you have a managed metadata field or something like that, and you want to know what the node is or the node name is for that, you can do the same thing, log this information, and then you're happily moving on. So again, just a reminder, this is really for debugging purposes, just to give you an idea of what the data is. What I would then recommend is that you would then take this particular loop and just either remove it or maybe put it into a run if and not even have it run unless you go and change some particular variable to tell it to run. So hopefully this helps you build out this type of logic. I'm going to share this workflow on my blog post, so feel free to download it and reuse it where needed. Thanks very much for listening in. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to post them at the end of this blog post.